Good morning to all of you, and a very big welcome on behalf of ACTRAV to this symposium on the future of work we want. We really appreciate you having taken your time to take part and your interest in the event. Just to make sure that the technicalities are all there, we have simultaneous interpretation in English, French, and Spanish. So if there's something that is not working, let us know.
Arabic as well.
I am Helena, the director of ACTRAV, and on my right I have Deborah Greenfield, the DDG for policy in the ILO, so the Deputy Director General, and between the two of us we're going to make some opening remarks to our symposium. Most of you know that in 2019 the ILO will commemorate its 100th anniversary, and that in the run-up to this celebration the ILO has launched the 7 centenary initiatives in order to prepare the organization for successfully addressing its mandate for social justice. The 7 initiatives cover the future of work, the end of poverty, women at work, green jobs, standards, enterprises, and governance. So all areas of great relevance and great importance. And we have picked the Future of Work initiative, which is the one that is bringing us all together today. And the way we see it is how can we put forward responses to the profound changes that have been increasingly taking place in the world of work over the last few decades. And this is something that we see across the globe, both in developed and developing countries. And the Director General, when he came up with a proposal for the Centenary Initiative on the Future of Work, has proposed a 3-stage implementation plan. The Centenary Conversations that have already taken place in different countries across the globe. The setting up of a high-level commission that is going to start its work next Saturday. And then the final discussion that should take place at the 108th session of the International Labour Conference in 2019, and its conclusions, because that's going to be the bottom line of the whole exercise, the conclusions that should, as much as possible, provide concrete guidance on ILO's work as the organization enters into its 2nd century of existence. And the Centenary Conversations were organized around 4 dialogues: work and society, decent work for all, the organization of work and production, and the governance of work. And these dialogues were organized at national level among the tripartite constituents, international organizations, research institutions, universities, NGOs, and governments. So, in these national dialogues, workers' organizations took part in many of these, but the degrees of involvement and engagement have been different, depending on the countries we are talking about. And in ACTRAV, as part of our work program for the current biennium, we have included the organization of 5 regional conferences in the Americas, in Asia-Pacific, in Europe and Central Asia, in the Arab states, and in sub-Saharan Africa. And the aim of these regional conferences was multiple. The first one, an invitation to contribute to the Centenary Initiative and to involve workers' organizations in the discussions from the outset, and at the same time to have this discussion with academics, employers, and government representatives. Second aim, to take a step back from the day-to-day activities of trade union organizations and to examine the larger macroeconomic and social developments that influence the world of work, not just from a national but also from a regional and an international perspective. Third was to fully grasp these developments and the ongoing structural transformations from a worker's perspective. Because it's important that there is a workers' perspective on this whole debate. The fourth was to assist in the construction of effective policy responses, taking into consideration on every response the gender perspective, which we find being fundamental in the debates on the future of work, but also policy responses that need to take into consideration the risks and the challenges that affect workers and their organizations. And the fifth, I could go on, but I've selected these five, to discuss also how these changes affect workers' organizations themselves and what new strategies need to be put in place to represent workers today in the labor market, but also those that will come in the labor market in the future. And so we were successful in the format that we have used for the regional conferences, and that's the reason why we have sort of copied that format to what we're going to do today, also with the small nuance that we have added two special dialogues. In some of the regional conferences, we had these special dialogues, not in all of them. One special dialogue on the need to set up a future that fits everyone and what is the role of politics and politicians in that regard. And the second special dialogue, and this has been done throughout the different regional conferences, how do we handle the Agenda 2030? And how does this fit in the debate on the future of work? And how can we use the Agenda 2030 as a way to promote a future of work that is based on sustainable and inclusive development in a global context of conjunctural and structural changes at the same time? So as I said, we have kept the same format. We're bringing together those of you, and I would like to thank you all for having accepted to take a part of your time to take part in this event, because we're bringing together renowned individuals from across the globe, but people that have been thinking about these issues, and again, in their different capacities. We've got trade union leaders in the room, we've got business representatives, we've got government officials, we've got political leaders, we've got scholars, we've got experts, so I think we've got a good mix in order to have a very good and lively discussion. And as you will see, as the program unfolds, practically all those present in this room will have a role to play in each one of the panel discussions that we're going to have throughout the coming days. And I also have to say that this model departs from what have been the traditional symposia organized by ACTRAV with a much larger audience, but the aim here is really to promote a real dialogue. And you cannot promote a real dialogue if you have a room with 100 people. It's very difficult. And also to draw guidance out of that dialogue for the necessary follow-up actions and discussions that will have to take place. So in the dialogues, we will be looking at the main drivers of economic growth and human development that influence positively and negatively at the same time the recent trends in the world of work and also their complex and interrelated relationships. We'll be asking ourselves a series of questions. Is the current model of globalization still fit for purpose? This model has led, yes, to a greater convergence between developed and emerging countries, but at the same time it has been unable to share equally the gains of this increased economic integration, and it has led to higher levels of inequality, and that's the situation we are confronted with today at the global level. So how can we move away from the current economic model of many emerging countries, and we have found that in the regional conferences, an economic model that is mostly based on exporting basic commodities and a few extractive sectors towards a broader economic development, an economic development that creates high-quality jobs, increases internal demand, and benefits all in the society. Also, what are the limits of technological change and how to address the declining labor shares that it provokes in many countries, the downwards pressures that is being put on wages, the growing polarization of the workforce, or the emergence of the gig economy leading to a disruption of the employment relationship. How to address the environmental degradation and its negative impact on the world of work, people, and the planet. How to handle different demographic trends that we observe across the globe. And in some, we have seen a rapid population growth. In others, we see the aging of the population. And as a result of that, we see a growing number of people that are forced to move inside their own countries, outside their own countries, between regions, and also in between continents, bringing labor migration and mobility to the front of the political debate. And how is this to influence the future of work. How to address the issues related to the quantity and the quality of jobs in the world economy that has got more than 50% of its workforce in the informal economy and a growing number of workers in non-standard forms of work. And how does this impact on the quality of our democracies? How this impact on the role of the tripartite constituents, the importance of tripartism and social dialogue, and of course, the role and the place of workers' organizations into all this. And last but not least, what role for the ILO? Where do our standards fit into this debate? What's going to be the future in that regard? What's going to be the future of the norm? What's the balance between the norm and the collective solution of the issues and the challenges? And I would just like to remind ourselves of what the DG, the Director General of the ILO, said at the closing session of the Global Dialogue on the Future of Work We Want, that was held in early April at the ILO headquarters. And at that moment, Guy Ryder insisted on the need to promote innovation and development while upholding the social objectives of the organization. And he said, and I quote, "The future of work must be inspired by considerations of humanity, of social peace, of social justice and peace. If it is not, we are going to a dark place. We are going to a dangerous place." End of quote. And he has called on the global community to make sure dialogue between governments and the social partners is a key instrument for building a world of work that leaves no one behind. So I think we have all the ingredients to have a good menu and a good discussion. And I'm sure this is going to be a very successful conference, and I hope that all of you in this room enjoy it and take something important out of it, but also help us construct a joint global agenda on how to address the challenges around the future of work. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would now like to give the floor to Deborah Greenfield. Deborah, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Maria Elena, for the invitation to join you today. And good morning and welcome, colleagues from around the world and from our tripartite constituents. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to talk with you today. Maria Elena asked me to talk to you about the ILO's Future of Work initiative. And so I'm going to fill in some of the details of our three-phase initiative, and I'm going to start where Maria Elena left off in her quote from the DG. So I want to set the stage first for our Future of Work initiative. Our Future of Work initiative is situated squarely within the ILO's mandate for social justice. The question that we ask ourselves throughout the Future of Work initiative is, as we enter our second century, as we see rapidly changing events in the workplace, what is the role, the institutional role of the ILO within the frame of achieving social justice in order to achieve lasting peace? That was our mandate in 1919. That mandate isn't going to change simply because we're starting the next 100 years of our working life. And it's not going to change because we see so many changes in the world of work. In fact, the challenge for us is to meet those changes in a meaningful way through working on to achieve social justice. Let me say, second, that the ILO was one of the first, if not the first, global institution to say, look, we have to start dealing with the future of work. So we started our initiative almost 3 years ago. Wherever I go today, the topic du jour is future of work. But we always have to remind ourselves as the ILO that we own a large piece of this debate because of how we situate ourselves in it. That is, we have the authority of our tripartite structure in answering the difficult questions about the future of work, in challenging ourselves to come up with sustainable solutions, and in challenging the world to expand its view of what the future of work is all about. Wherever I go to talk about the future of work, and I know wherever the DG goes and wherever many people in the ILO go, the topic is technology. Now, technology is a hugely important driver of the future of work, but it is only one driver, and I actually like to think of it as a tool more than a driver. That is, we own technology, we create technology, and how we use technology is really a question of policy choices. So there's nothing inevitable about what technology will do other than it will keep evolving. We've seen other industrial/technological revolutions, and the policies we put in place in the workplace are really what help us bear the fruits or the burdens of technological innovation. And we keep this in our minds all the time as we talk about the future of work and try to widen the space and make it into more of a policy debate rather than a debate about how many jobs will be created or destroyed, what's the net gain, what's the net loss. So let me just talk a little bit more about the three phases of the Future of Work initiative. When the Director General introduced the Future of Work Centenary Initiative in a report to conference, he outlined, as Maria Elena said, 4 conversations that helped him frame the issues for the ILO. And they have served us well as we've gone out into the larger community and tried to have a meaningful debate among our tripartite constituents, as well as internally, about the future of work. The first conversation or theme is work and society. And the question there is, knowing what work means to individuals and to community now, knowing how the ILO Constitution frames work as a way in which individuals achieve meaning and dignity in their lives, what will happen to that meaning as work evolves, and how can work continue to have the same meaning for individuals and community? The second conversation or theme is decent work for all. In that conversation, we talk about where the jobs will come from and what they'll look like. And here we try to really emphasize that there are macroeconomic issues that affect and that will help drive the answers to this question. The third theme or discussion, conversation, is the organization of work and production. We know that there are major developments in the way in which work is organized. We talk quite a bit at the ILO, for example, about global supply chains. We talk about standard forms of employment and, in contrast, non-standard forms of employment. At the same time, and so we see the evolution of work, and yet at the same time, we see persistent informality, which is the basic form of work in many countries. And so what will work look like? Finally, and in some ways this is the punchline question, the governance of work. What are the policies and the institutions, labor market institutions, other public policies that need to be put in place so that the goal of decent work is achieved? And a huge aspect of this question is, what will employers' organizations and workers' organizations need to do to continue their role as the representative organizations of workers and employers respectively? So, as Maria Elena said, within this context in which the future of work for us is a global issue, it's a normative issue, it's an economic issue, and it's also a philosophical and a very practical issue, we began with national dialogues in 110 of our member states. And these dialogues, which were tripartite, are, I think, significant achievements for at least two reasons. One is, of course, that every single national dialogue was tripartite. And so the dialogues mirror the ILO's unique structure and our unique lens on the world of work. They have an authoritative quality to them because they embody social dialogue that no other discussions about the future of work have. Second, the dialogues occurred in countries across the globe, and I think this is most significant in countries at very different levels of economic development. So you have countries, you have least developed countries, you have, I'll just pick from the list. We had discussions in Nepal, Mauritania, Sudan, Tanzania, Yemen. We had discussions in Ghana, India, Paraguay, Swaziland, Vietnam, all the way through to upper middle income and upper income countries, Argentina, Brazil, Lebanon, Jordan, South Africa, Denmark, the US, the Netherlands, Norway. I mean, I could go on. But the fact that we were able to mobilize our members, which to have these dialogues in a tripartite way, means that we have a lens on the world of work. We have information about what concerns our member states that is truly unique. Now, we've synthesized these dialogues into our synthesis report, which is available to you. If it's not, if you can't find it on the web, let me know, and I'll make sure that it's there. But we did not script the dialogues. That is, we didn't say follow the 4 conversations. We wanted to hear from our member states, from our constituents, and because of that, the topics were incredibly wide-ranging. Corporate social responsibility, job creation, fundamental principles and rights at work, global supply chains, the knowledge society, and increased inequality. I'm just picking out some themes from the synthesis report. And I really commend the synthesis report to you as you see that some of the challenges that confront all of us are the challenges we see today. So while in some countries the conversation steered more towards the technological changes that we're seeing, in other countries the question was, okay, that's out there, but how do we bring that back to unemployment, to the questions about youth that we have? So that was our first chapter in Future of Work. The second one, as Maria-Elena said, is the Global Commission on the Future of Work, which holds its first meeting this weekend. The commission is composed of 28 people who are on the commission in their individual capacity, but it's not the ILO's tripartite structure that's governing the structure of this committee. Rather, the DG really sought very broad input among a wide range of experts from NGOs, the private sector, governments, academia, to come together in their individual capacities and to delve into, over the course of a year, themes that they will decide on to help steer us within our mandate for social justice into the next century. They will give us principles, guidance, guideposts to reinvigorate our work and to make our work more responsive, more directly related to the challenges that we see in the world of work. We're very fortunate to have a prime minister and a president who are active co-chairs of our commission, the Prime Minister of Sweden and the president of Mauritius, and we're very much looking forward to our first meeting. We have put in front of the Global Commission another report that I would also ask you to look at, and that is the Inception Report. So this is our foundational report to the Commission to just provide a lens, a basis for the in-depth conversation that the Commission will have over the course of the year. We start out with the mega trends that we see in the world of work. And so that includes, of course, technology, but it includes demographics, women in the workplace, the rise of inequality, the status of informality, many of the big trends that we see that are sort of the floor, the foundational fabric of any discussion on the future of work. And then we go through the 4 conversations and talk about major themes that we see in the world of work today. But what we've emphasized to the Commission, and what I know our co-chairs are very insistent on, is that we're not prescribing what the Commission needs to look at. The Commission understands our mission, understands our mandate, but the Commission, through its own expertise coming together, will decide what themes it wants to pursue over the course of the next year or so. And we will assist the Commission through our technical work in providing evidence and analysis that helps those discussions. The Commission will meet, will have 4 sessions. In between those sessions, it is possible, but we don't know yet, that there might be subgroup meetings of the Commission or other ways in which members of the Commission ply their trade, so to speak, their expertise in smaller groups to have a more in-depth discussion. One of the questions that we get all the time from our member states is, okay, we had the national dialogues, now the Commission is going to meet, where are we over the next year or so? And the answer is that we are going to be, with the Commission's guidance, trying to develop communication channels between our member states and the Commission, whether that happens through regional hearings or meetings about a particular topic. We're not sure yet, because we're leaving this to the Commission to give us some guidance, but we will actively work with our member states, and that means the tripartite partners in our member states, to hook them up with the work that the Commission is doing and to allow them to feed into the Commission's work. As I said, so the Commission's final product will be what we're just calling a final report, which will be, we think, a rather short, direct, action-oriented document that helps to guide the ILO as we move forward. So I don't know at this point whether it will be policy recommendations, action plans, simply guideposts, but it will speak both to the ILO and to policymakers across the globe about the conjunction of the future of work and the achievement of decent work. Let me just conclude by saying that one of the things that we have, that I hear all the time when I do go and talk about the future of work is certain themes that I think are important that I suspect the Global Commission will also find important. We've already talked about the widening inequality in country, the widening inequality and gap between the rich and poor within enterprises. This has now become a macroeconomic issue around the globe, and one that we've been talking about for a long time, but for various reasons, not necessarily for the same reasons as the ILO is concerned about it. This has become a major concern among our multilateral partners and other international organizations, as well as countries themselves. Now, I think it's connected to a growing realization that, in fact, it's not just that people feel that they've been left behind by globalization, but in fact they have. And so you can debate how much of this is due to technology and how much of this is due to globalization, to the trade regime. But the reality is that with widening inequality, with a declining labor income share, the world is now worried about what happens next. I think it's also motivated by what we see as political populism across the globe. Connected to that are, I think, two important drivers. One is the persistence of informality, and the other is the yawning gap between male and female labor force participation. We hear a lot about this in the fora that we go to, but not enough, and not as an integrated theme and an integrated challenge that we have. I'll just end by saying two themes that I don't hear very much about. One is climate change. I don't see policymakers integrating the challenges of climate change with the challenges of the future of work. You don't hear talk about a just transition. You don't really hear much about the ways in which climate change are affecting inequality, migration, and all the other issues that we know climate change is impacting. I also don't hear a lot about what we at the ILO talk of as the enabling environment for sustainable enterprises, which is a key issue in the future of work. We hear a lot about entrepreneurship, absolutely important, but we hear it as everybody will become a technological entrepreneur. All we need to do is skill everybody up, and our problems will be solved. And we know how difficult the whole issue of skills is. We also know how difficult the issues are around entrepreneurship, but we simply don't hear enough about what we need to do to make sure that that the enterprise environment is conducive to decent work. So we're hoping that in our Future of Work initiative, we have an opportunity to pursue this as well. I think I will stop here, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Deborah. I think you have given us food for thought regarding some of the topics that I'm sure will be taken up in the course of our discussions. And unfortunately, we don't have the time to open up room for a discussion at this stage, but I'm sure that many of the aspects you have touched upon will come back in the course of our discussion. So thank you very much for being with us.